Hi guys, welcome back. Just going to pull some bikes out and talk through what we're looking at today. So, two bikes over there, these three, and there's two in there. Today, battery back on, zzr, fire it up, let it idle for a good few minutes, see if the smoke settles, see if it runs and rides. That'll be really interesting. I'm looking forward to that. Suzuki Bandit 600, my old bike. It's running too rich. I'm going to pop the tank, get its tuning back closer to where it was, so that it starts a bit easier and it's a bit nicer on the bottom end. This Bandit 400 didn't start last time. It's low on fuel. I need to fill it up with fuel, and I'm going to spray the rear panels because of that bit there, and obviously that bit there. Yes, so that's going to be sorted. I told you guys earlier, dress up kit next week for the Benelli. It's going to look like brand new, I think. So first thing I'm going to do today is hook up the battery onto the zzr600, fire it up, let it idle for a couple of minutes. So guys, the battery's in. I just fully expect, I'm going to go more to the back so we can see if it's smoky. I just fully expect this bike to start up and idle and be fine. I'm going to let it idle for a few minutes so that I can set the idle itself, and then I will be considering taking it for a spin.
Alright.
So let's see how this thing starts, runs and rides and idles, and we'll go from there. So started fine. We left one of the coolant hoses unclipped, so I'll be popping that tank up in a bit and clipping that back on. It's very easy. Obviously then we'll be topping up the coolant. I don't want to warm it up too much at the moment without the coolant running through it. So I believe that hose is back on now. We'll keep an eye out, make sure there's no drips. There was plenty coolant in the overflow tank, so it's not low on coolant. Let's fire it up again and have it idle for a couple of minutes. You're going to see bits of smoke and stuff coming off the bike. It's not on fire. We've been cleaning it and some of the oil spilt yesterday and so on, so that stuff will just be burning off. Seems fine. My only kind of slight concern is the oil. Oh, I can see it now actually, look. It's raising back to its normal level. Great, I'm going to idle it for a couple more minutes then. The neighbours love it. They ask me every weekend, please Charlie, fire up your bikes and just idle them for no reason. And in a minute I'm going to take this bike for a little run, I think. Get it out there, see if it goes through its gears, we don't know that now, see if the brakes work, and just see if I don't die really. It's warm then. Idle. think it's time, guys. I'm going to take this bike out for a spin, make sure it has brakes, make sure it has anything, and then I'll come back and we'll do some pre-MOT checks at some point. It's got a month left on the MOT, or 2 months, but we'll put it for a new one, I think, just to make sure. When I let the clutch out, it cuts out. Why? That bike rides so well, guys. It was the side stand switch, by the way, earlier, but my god, that rides so well. That pull's so strong. I consider that bike complete. We'll throw an MOT on it next week. The front brake light switch wasn't working. I'll check the rear one. Probably needs a new number plate. That one's a bit weird, but that's a good running bike. That someone's gonna love that. So guys, I'm not necessarily doing a video on the Bandit, just because I'm retuning after the emission stuff. But if you look at the spark plug, come on, zoom in, or focus even. It is black. There you go. And that's the problem with running super rich. So that's the reason why I'm going to be readjusting the air fuel screws and cleaning these spark plugs, because you know, it just won't run well like that. Okay guys, so there's not much to do on this Bandit 400. We've got a new peg for down here, which Connor will throw on after. At the moment we're going to be whipping off these rear panels and this rear seat, scuffing up this rear panel on both sides and spraying it black, putting on the rear peg. It needs petrol, we need to do a petrol run, and I'm going to be popping this little dent out at some point. So we're not going to do a mad video on this. It's not a huge project, but that's the steps we're going. So then rear panels are coming off at this stage. So guys, apologies for fluttering back and forward so much with bikes today. So I've cleaned the spark plugs. They were black because it's running super rich. Now if you look under here on the carbs, see these screws in here? They are the air fuel mixture screws. The more out they are, the more fuel that's going in. Now if you want to get your bike, in fact here's my top tip to get past the ultra low emission zone on your first run. Move the screws out, one whole turn on each carb. I mean that I can't guarantee one whole turn does enough, but one whole turn. And do something in your air box that restricts the air. Maybe double up your air filter, or if you're using a high flow filter, go to a standard just for the test. So screw these out a whole turn on each carb and restrict your flow. A super rich running bike runs lower NOx levels, okay? Super rich running bike, lower NOx levels. I'm going to keep saying that so that people understand it. Even I thought the leaner the better, and that's not true. It's not the leaner the better. It's the richer the better. But yes, yeah, so I'm going to be adjusting these screws. I'm going to be going a turn back in on each one and then firing this bike up. I'll know if it's fixed because it will start immediately. At the moment it wasn't even starting very well. So guys, I've gone one full turn in on each carb, and I've cleaned the spark plugs. This bike should start first kick of the button, no choke needed, nothing like that. So I'm going to throw the tank back on and see if we can get this thing back up and running. Alright guys, so I've got the battery at home on charge. I'm going to hook up my boost box. Basically this bike stopped running because the new owner, who's a really nice young man actually, really lovely, he just weren't good with the starting procedure, and it was already running rich for the low emissions, and just adding it all together, basically the plugs failed, and because he flooded it, which is fine, it's not the end of the world. So I've unflooded it, and I've readjusted the carbs back to where they should be. This bike should start and it should run beautifully. So I'm going to add the boost box, cross my fingers and hope it starts, because it did not start no matter what the other day. Suction hose. Missed the suction hose there. It fired briefly, but backfires. It backfires because it's flooded and it's got fuel all in there, isn't it? But suction hose is on now. Let's see if that's made a difference. No idea what's going on there. It's backfiring like nuts. I might have to take the shims out of the needles. There's shims in the needles now, which again is making it richer. Normally shimming's okay, it's not the end of the world. Oh, I'm going to take them out so that it's as back to stock as possible. I'll let you guys know how that's going. So when someone shims the needles are within this setup here. So you take off the top, you pull it out, the whole needle set comes out with it. In fact, I'll show you in a minute. Then somewhere under the system there'll be a washer on the needle which makes it sit higher, adding more fuel. It could be struggling to start because there's just way too much fuel going through it. So I'm going to whip off this one and we'll have a look at what's going on. So here you go guys, here's the setup and here's the needle. Now I don't know now if they put these in, these are adjustable needles, or if these were mine and they've just changed the adjustment. I'm going to go up one click to lower this needle one click and then put it all back together, and I'm going to do the same with all 4 carbs, and hope that solves the problem, because it was running perfectly before, so it should be that simple. So guys, you saw kind of quickly and roughly what I did. I just dropped the adjustable needles. I dropped them down by 1 pin to see if that makes a difference. If it doesn't make a difference, I'm going to have to look at spark and make sure all of these plugs are okay. Make sure they're basically all sparking properly, because again, you know, this bike ran perfectly well not that long ago. So we'll look at the spark and see if it is sparking properly and what's happening. I mean, this bike drove me home that day and seemed a bit under power, but I thought that was about tuning. So nothing major can be wrong. Something kind of fairly simple has gone amiss here. The other thing I might need to do is put the balancers on and see if the carbs need balancing. Depending on how much work they did in there, they may have knocked out the balance. So I'm going to chuck the petrol tank back on, fire it up again, and see if it sounds any better at all. It may, it may not. Okay guys, so we're back. I'm going to try and fire it up. If this doesn't work... Yeah, so let's see guys. I mean, the backfiring on that last one, I don't know what would cause that. You'd only get that if you was running on less cylinders really, or yeah, if something wasn't sparking properly. So I don't know what's going on. Let's have a look. It sounds terrible. I'm going to have a little play and see what's going on. Alright guys, so I mean, as you can hear, it's running. Do you know what? Side stand switch. I played with the side stand switch. I think I may disconnect it. Whatever happens there. Although, I mean, it's not doing anything now anyway, is it? So I don't get that, but side stand switch kind of stopped it running. That's so weird, I don't get it. I really don't get it. I've got a bad feeling that if I leave it for half an hour, it'll go back to not wanting to start. I think that's probably what I'm going to have to do. Sounds great though, back to its good old self. I mean, you never know, the problem could just be solved. I've got a suspicion that somebody pulled his spark plugs and swapped them over, you know. I think the left two spark plugs were swapped over, because I thought that earlier. So weird. So as you can see, it's been running and riding for a few minutes now. I'm going to just mess around with it, shut it on and off a few times. So I'm going to leave that be for a while, let it get fully cold, and then go back to starting it. Okay guys, so again, jumping projects. We've got this back side panel up here, kind of scuffed it and made sure it's all flat and smooth. I'm just brake cleaning it now. And remember, any residue, any oils, brake cleaner will take off. You can use the proper stuff obviously. And then I'll be following the system I always follow, so a kind of light 85% coat that just falls on from a distance, then a second light coat that does 100% coverage roughly, and then I'll do 2 or 3 wet coats. And we know what wet coats are, they're a bit closer and you can see they're wet and you overlap 50% on each run. So that's the system I'm going to follow on this one. I'm just going to let that dry. I can show you roughly, terrible angle, but the first wet coat, the first tack coat, which is a distance coat. The main thing you got to do here is make sure the bottle's been shaken for a minute roughly, and actually warm it up a bit. If it's too cold, it won't flow very well. On the next, we do, you know, maybe 2 more of them. So you wait 10 minutes now. We do another tack coat, and then you go to wet coats, which is closer, and you overlap your run by 50%, and then you should get a nice gloss finish. But the tack coats will give us an idea of if we need to do any more filling stuff on here. Make sense? Yeah. Great. Alright guys, so I'm just warming up the Bandit 400 while we're doing this panel, and it's drying anyway. This rear number plate, I don't like, it's too big, it's not in the holder. Connor's going to whip that off, we've got a slightly smaller one that'll fit better. Bike sounds and runs nice. That's great. And we've got our second tack coat on here, which will be drying slowly. And the under isn't great actually. Might need to sand it down a little bit more. Might. Not sure. So we'll see how that goes. If it's terrible in the long run, then we can buy some new rear panels anyway. Alright guys, I've done stupid amounts of videos today. I don't even know how I'm going to edit it all. The Bandit is back up to normal and just so retuned, and I've put an alarm on for the guy free of charge. This is one of them super loud alarms again, so it's worth having. I believe somebody messed with this bike and they switched the spark plug things around. Honestly, don't ask me how or why, it's quite awkward to do, but someone has done something stupid on this bike, but it's resolved now. The Bandit 400 is done. Connor did a great job today. He really helped me. I wouldn't have been able to have got this work done today. Check out the number plate and look at the bottom here. Motorcycle Rescuer. Excellent. Proud of this bike, so having my name on it is good. Tomorrow I think I'm going to try and use this new dent kit. I tried that little suction cup yesterday and it's rubbish. It didn't suck at all. In fact, it did suck. It sucked big time because it didn't work. So I'm going to try that new glue one tomorrow, where you glue a tab on and then you put a bridge here and you screw it up. I'm going to give that a shot, and I'll throw on these rear panels tomorrow, and this will be MOT-able this time next week. It starts and runs and rides very well. Let's just have a little look at that. Yeah, and it's a great little 400. I'm seriously tempted to put on an aftermarket exhaust, just a slash one, just, you know, one that bolts on there. But this is an original full system in good condition, and people like originality with these bikes. zzr600 is completely finished, polished up now, runs beautifully, rides well, and I'll be putting that through for an MOT on Saturday. Honestly guys, this bike's going up for £1,000. Me and Jake will be looking for close to £1,000. It's just mint. The bike's absolutely mint. Look at the chain and sprocket, and yeah, worth every penny. We've just done all the tuning work to the carbs and we've balanced them out, and it rides. In fact, I've turned on every other bike. I might as well turn on this one. No weird smoke. The oil's been changed. The air filter was cleaned when we took it out. Did we do the spark plugs? Yeah, we cleaned the spark plugs, and yeah, it runs beautifully, no issues at all. And then the S3 passed the MOT today, and Aiden's expressed wanting this bike, so he's going to pop up and look at it sometime in the week. This bike will be kind of $850 because it owes me 5 plus the MOT 50, front brake pads which I didn't put on anyway. So yeah, so $850 for this one. If Aiden doesn't want it, I'll be advertising it at kind of $1,000 and be looking at the $850 when people hustle me down, which they always do. And then we've got the mystery bike under there, the old stolen moped that the extremely nice young lady at the police place helped me to get back, basically, because it was going to get crushed, and we're here to rescue bikes. We're not here to watch them get crushed. Jake's going to be building this bike because it's a bok. I'm done with this bike. And then Jake's going to be selling it on. I think we're going to be quite strict on selling that bike this time. Like, insist people have a full license. I'm not saying they didn't before. I'm not saying they didn't, but you don't do that with people. You don't check. If someone comes and buys your bike and they can ride it away successfully, you don't say to them, you know, do you have a full license? But I think we're going to be a bit stricter when we sell that one to stop any messing around. So that's it for today. We've done so much. The main thing is getting the Bandit running for the guy again. I'm glad that's sorted. I love that Bandit. I am going to try and get that back at a later date. Yeah. And the zzr is such a success. I'm shocked at how clean it's come out. As always, guys, message me if you need to. Feel free to bring a bike down. I've got a Honda CG coming soon. I met someone yesterday who's had a CG sitting in his garden for 8 years unrun, and he said we will not get it up and running. And I said, I actually tried to buy it off him, and he wasn't interested. So I said, bring it down, we'll get it running. So keep your eye out for a Honda CG over the next few weeks. And then of course we've got the newish full fairing set and a tank for that Benelli. And I'm considering making that the giveaway bike because it's got a year's MOT, it runs great, I've always serviced it, and it's going to have black panels and a tank. So yes, extremely busy. Thanks for watching. As always, please subscribe. If more people that subscribe and share, more likely I am at some point to make a few pound out of it. And I promise you, when YouTube start paying me, I'm going to be giving away bikes left, right and centre.